Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Afizi bin Ahmad Fuzi. My student ID is 525075587. Today I will be presenting my analysis of two Malaysian companies facing an operational challenge, and more important, how their leadership can transform this challenge into opportunities by embedding ethics into their innovation process, governance structures, and corporate culture. It is not just about compliance, it is about building a resilient, responsible organization and create lasting value for all stakeholders. Here's our roadmap for today. We will begin by understanding why operational decisions are fundamentally ethical decisions. Then we will dive into two very different cases. Texora, a medium-sized clothing manufacturer struggling with unstructured process, and EcoWare, a fast-growing startup in the eco-friendly product space. For each, I will highlight specific ethical challenge and propose practical leadership action. We will then synthesize the lesson into ethical frameworks and conclude with actionable steps you can implement immediately. Let me start with fundamental insight that emerge from this analysis. Operational excellence and ethical responsibility are not separate functions to be managed by different departments. They are two sides of the same coins. When Texora machines stop because material don't arrive, that's not just an operational problem. It is an ethical failure affecting workers' livelihood. When EcoWare inefficient process create waste, that's not just a cost issue, it is a branch of the environmental promise. Throughout this presentation, I will be demonstrate how integrating ethical thinking into every operational decision create more resilient, profitable, and trusted organization. Let's look at why really happening at Texora. This is not just a list of operational problem. It is a portrait of ethical culture crisis. Notice the pattern. Reactive planning and downtime sound like an operational issue, but the ethical dimension is worker welfare. The company's treat its employees as disposable, forcing unpaid leave when it show and mandatory overtime when it panics. The panic leads to quality control failure, but the real issue, the knowing ship defective product during peak time, that's not a mistake. It is a deliberate breach of customer trust. Why they so reactive? Because there are no formal system, no ERP, no supply audit. They are actively ignoring industry best practice. This is a failure of professional ethics. And in the absence of system that fill the void, subjectivity supply selection is based on informal feedback, which is just a nice way of saying favoritism and bias. It's not fair and it's not objective. This all culminates in a procurement strategy focused purely on the lowest price. They pat themselves on the back for saving a penny while ignoring the true cost of poor quality and late deliveries. They ignore the total cost of ownership, which is a failure of their professional responsibility. So when you look at Texora, you are not looking at a company with bad luck. You are looking at a company where short-term thinking has created a culture that's compromised worker welfare, deceive customer, and reward buyers. That is the crisis we need to solve. So what can Texora leadership do? First, transform workplace culture by implementing transparent scheduling system that provide workers with stability and predictability. Establish clear quality threshold that cannot be compromised ever. And create an environment where employee feel psychology safe, raising concern without fear of blame. Second, elevates professional ethics by developing objective supply scorecard that evaluate not just cost, but quality, delivery, reliability, and ethical practice. Train your procurement team to understand total cost of ownership. The idea that the cheapest purchase price often lead to higher costs downstream and require data-backed proposal for all strategic decisions. Finally, strengthen governance by creating a formal supplier code of conduct, establishing an ethical sourcing committee with cross-functional representation and implementing whistleblower protection so employees can report concerns without retaliation. The goal is fundamental shift from cheapest price to best value thinking. What I call an ethical evolution is how the company operates. EcoWare faced a different but equally serious set of challenges as a fast-growing startup positioned eco-friendly. The operational inefficiencies create significant ethical and legal risks. The transaction approach to suppliers reaching out only when need with no continuous communication for formal contract create legal ambiguity. Who liable when material are defective of deliveries late? Without contract, EcoWare has limited resource. Worse, the pressure to complete order may lead employees to skip inspection, allowing substandard or unsafe material into production. But here, the biggest issue, EcoWare brand is built on being eco-friendly, yet their own operations are wasteful with significant raw material waste from inefficient process. This direct contradicts the environmental promise. If the market product is environmentally friendly while their supply chain is not monitored, if, for example, their bamboo comes from unsustainably managed forests, they risk accusation of greenwashing. In many countries, greenwashing is not just unethical, it's illegal, leading to fine, regulatory investigation, and reputation damage that can destroy a brand overnight. This iceberg visualization captures EcoWay core risk. Customers see the marketing, the eco-friendly claims, but beneath the surface lies the entire upstream supply chains. Where do raw material actually come from? Are there elements of forced labor, of child labor at any stage? Is the bamboo coming from sustainably managed forests? EcoWare lack of strategic suppliers or relationship mean they have deliberately blinded themselves to potential violation upstream. In today's regulatory environment, with law like the UK Modern Slavery Act and similar framework emerging globally, not knowing is not longer an acceptable excuse. Companies are legally required to conduct due diligence on their supply chain. Ignorance does not protect you from liability. Now, for the exciting part, how EcoWay can turn this challenge into opportunities by embedding ethics into the innovation process. First, lean manufacturing. Typically, we think of lean as cost saving, but its principles are deeply ethical. The Kaizen approach empowers employees to identify and solve problems, treating them as valuable thinkers, not just machine operators, and eliminating waste is not just about money, it's about responsibility, stewardship of resources. When EcoWay reduce raw material waste, they actually reducing environmental impact, directly supporting their brand promise. Second, process innovation for safety. Those quality control issues in packaging are not just efficiency problem, they are safe risk. Rush packaging might mean loose lid on food container or unpolished edge on stainless steel lunch box that could cost cut. By innovating to create more controllable workflow, EcoWay fulfill their basic ethical responsibility, providing safe product. Third, consider just-in-time with local supplier. Just-in-time is usually seen as pure efficiency, but for EcoWay, partnering with local suppliers has multiple ethical benefits, supporting the local economy, reducing transportation emissions, and building community resilience. However, we must balance this with the lesson from COVID-19. Overnight efficient just-in-time system can collapse during disruption. The key is wise implementation. Let me synthesize this lesson into what I call the ethical compass, a framework leadership can use to guide decision-making across four dimensions. First, workplace ethics. How do we treat our people? This means stable scheduling, psychologically safe, and fair compensation, not just when it's convenient, but consistently. Second, professional ethics. Do we practice what we preach? This requires objective supplier scorecard, total cost thinking, and commitment to continuous learning and improvement. Third, ethics and law. Are we not just meeting but exceeding standards? This means for formal contract and protect all parties, supply chains due diligence that goes beyond surface level checks and robust compliance monitoring. Fourth, ethical and innovation. Does our innovation serve all stakeholders, not just shareholders? This means using lean for genuine sustainability, designing for safety first, and building partnerships that strengthen communities. The goal across all dimensions is to move from mere compliance, doing what the law requires, to operating with integrity that exceeds legal minimum. This is how brand promise become verifiable truths, not just marketing slogan. Theory is important, but what matters is action. Here a practical 30-day plan for leadership. Week 1 assessment: map your current supplier relationship, identify where ethical risks are highest, which suppliers have no contract, where is visibility limited. Survey employees about workplace culture to understand the real dynamic. Week 2 foundation: draft a supplier code of conduct that set clear expectations. Create supplier scorecard templates that include ethical criteria. Establish an ethical sourcing committee with representatives from procurement, operation, and legal. Week 3 is training. Train your procurement team on total cost of ownership thinking, educate marketing and operation of greenwashing risk. Launch a confidential channel for reporting ethical concern. Week 4 is implementation. Pilot your new supply evaluation process with key suppliers. Begin supply chains due diligence, starting with high-risk categories. Communicate this change to all stakeholders, employees, suppliers, customers. Remember, cultural change does not happen overnight. Start with visible commitment and builds momentum. So here the bottom line: if you do nothing, you remain in that cycle is reactive firefighting, employee stress, quality failure, and growing legal risk. Your brand promise remain just word. But if you take action, if you integrate ethic into every operational decision, you build something different. Engaged employees, consistent qualities, verified sustainability claim, and long-term value for shareholders, workers, community, and the environment. The choice is yours. Continue the cycle or build a resilient, responsible organization. 7 key takeaways to remember once operation and ethics are inseparable. Sorry. Once operation and ethical are inseparable, two workplace culture drive ethical behavior. 3. Professional ethic require continuous learning. 4. Suppliers change visibility is non-negotiable. 5. Innovation must serve all stakeholders. 6. Move beyond compliance to integrity. And 7. Most importantly, start now. Start small, but start. The 30 days plan gives you immediate direction. My analysis draw on established research in business ethics and supply chain management. Full reference are available in the written report for those interested in the deeper reading. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum.